Bases dropped on a new week of soccer down here.
It would be amazing. I'm just saying, 90 minutes compelling content. It's non-stop entertainment.
Kodai Tanaka, what a save! Kodai Tanaka cleans it up, and Kodai Tanaka says goodnight.
He's back to the left, he's back to the right, he's back to the left, plays it off, goal! Goal! Goal!
Able to slip it through, is gonna find it, and it's in!
Gajardo with the left! Puts in the cross over the head of Carlton. It falls to him anyway. Right-footed shot. Goal, goal, goal! Atlanta United 2, and they take the 4-3 lead. Welcome in. It's time for another Soccer Down Here 1v1 on the SDH network. I'm Jason Longshore, joined by an old friend, one of our most frequent guests on the SDH network, Tony Annan, the head coach at the University of South Carolina. Tony, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing? Good to be back.
Doing well. Yeah, it's been a minute. You've been busy. You know, the
Yeah.
college soccer lifestyle is different. It's maybe not the same as the professional level, but just it's been very busy for you since taking over in Columbia, South Carolina.
Yeah, it has. I've been here, 4 years now? Just over 4 years. And it's flown by. And I haven't had time to even catch up with you. So this is probably my first time on in a long time, right?
Yeah, we've had you on since the move for sure, but it's been a
Yeah.
couple of seasons because you know you're in the midst of creating a strong program in what I think is the most underrated conference for men's soccer in NCAA D1, the Sun Belt. The competition's crazy.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough league. And there are no easy games. There's some very good coaches and some really good squads of players in the Sun Belt. But it's really tough. There's a lot of pressure in it, and it's enjoyable. It's challenging, but it is a very tough division to play in.
How is that pressure at the D1 level? I mean, you know pressure. You had it with Atlanta United too when you were running that program. You've had it in the academy. You had it in the youth scene in Georgia before that. How does the pressure at the D1 level compare?
Um, it's a good question. I think the most pressure is I put on myself.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of it comes from me and how well I want to do and how much I want to win and what a good job I want to do with the program. So I think most of the pressure comes from me. When you're at a school in the SEC like South Carolina, a big school in the South that has a great history, I think there is added pressure and expectation that comes with the job, but nothing that I can't handle or nothing that I haven't seen before, I don't think. But like I said, I think turning the program, not that it was in terrible shape, but, you know, turning it to try and get it back at the top, I think the most of the pressure comes from myself.
Yeah, the landscape has shifted a lot, even in the time that you've been at South Carolina. The college game is in such a different place today than it was when you walked in the door. What are some of the biggest challenges that you found at the college level?
It's funny because I tell this story all the time. Actually, I was talking to the new AD that we just got a few months ago. And my idea of college soccer was coming in, bringing in, 26, 28 lads, developing them, which is what I think I've got a little bit of a experience at doing, and grooming the squad all the way through till they graduate. And after year one, well, actually, the first season I got here, the transfer portal opened. And then the second season, NIL was approved. The third season, it was NIL and roster limits were coming down the pipe. And now it's profit share and roster limits. So I talked to a few guys and they say, well, why did you get into college soccer at this time? And I'm like, well, all I've ever known since I got in was kind of the chaos that it is, right? Yeah. So I don't feel it like other guys feel it, I guess, who've been in it for years. But it certainly changes quickly. You know, just when you think you've got this sort of handle on this, another thing comes along. And I'm sure there'll be more changes to come in college sports in general. You're almost like a GM more than a coach because you're dealing with NIL, you're dealing with roster caps, you're dealing with profit share if you're fortunate to get any. You're dealing with guys who want to go on the portal because maybe they were held accountable and they didn't like it. I mean, you're almost like a GM fundraising on top of that, going and finding NIL opportunities. Like it's like almost preparing you to be a different, to go into a different area in soccer. If you didn't want to be a coach, you could probably go in as a director of soccer at a club, you know. So it's good, it's challenging, it's frustrating at times because of the changes and the way the goalposts move every season. But again, like I said before, I'm enjoying it. It's fun, it's challenging. It's made me a better coach, and I think it's made me a more organized, and I think I'm more adaptable now to different roles in soccer than I was before.
How have the changes this year specifically? I mean, I remember having the conversations with somebody you're going to face this weekend in Brett Surrency at Georgia State, just about the unknowns all of last year as to what the rules were actually going to be. How hard was it to navigate that, and how much of an impact did it have on your preparation for 25?
I mean, as you know, recruitment, and I think Brett would probably say the same thing, recruitment's number one priority, as it is all over the world in every club and every organization. And, you know, I think Brett does a really good job of that as well. And Brett's been in it a lot longer than I have. But I think having to recruit, not knowing how many roster spots you had for sure, not knowing how much scholarship money you had for sure, because obviously some schools have awarded 28, some schools have awarded 24. I think UCF's on 20. My nemesis UK and SEC's on 15. So not knowing how much money you were going to get, not knowing the roster numbers, and also, you know, kids can walk in, you're almost finished recruiting, it's May, and they can walk in and say, hey, coach, I'm out of here. And then you're one or two guys down and you're now starting again to find those guys. So there's a lot of frustration to that, especially when you're organized and you're ahead of the game, you're a planner. It really spins you for a loop if something, you know, does a U-turn on you.
So with all of those challenges, how has the squad come together for you in 25? 5-3 so far going into conference play starting tomorrow.
We were fortunate. We had 14 return, right? Which these days is a pretty good number.
It's pretty rare these days.
Yeah. Which I think was a compliment to the staff here that we managed to hold on to 14 guys. We had some leave, but it was probably the guys who needed to if they wanted opportunities. So I think we put a very good squad together. We've got a really good mix of experience, some youth, a couple of Atlanta guys, obviously, that we can develop, hopefully, over the next couple of years. Some transfers, some international freshmen who were older with a bit more experience. So I think we've got a really good blend of experience, of knowledge, of ability. And when it's come together so far, it's been really good. So I'm really happy with the squad.
Seeing it from the other side, and you're going to have the most unique perspective on this because you were there at the beginning of Atlanta United launching and developing talent. Now seeing some of that talent make its way to you on the other side in the college game, how important has Atlanta United and other MLS clubs been in the Southeast in maybe changing the talent pool that's available to you?
I think, you know, that small percentage of MLS guys who signed professional contracts would have been probably the top guys in college. Luke Brennan was supposed to come here. He was committed to here. I understood exactly what was going on. I think everybody does that.
Yeah.
You commit somebody, they get a pro contract, they want to do that, that's no problem. I'm all about that, obviously. Being on that side of it, I was pleased for Luke because I'd known him since he was 6 years old. So, I think that small percentage that would be stars in college are now probably gone. You're not getting those guys. But I think MLS academies are probably the next sort of where you're going to get your quality guys. There are guys that are in ECNL that are very good. There are guys that are in MLS Next clubs that are very good.
Yeah.
But we tend to look at guys that are MLS 2, the MLS Next Pro, who are getting training time, who are getting playing time. And that's kind of the next level of American player that we look at. But we also look at ECNL, we look at MLS Next, we look at everything. But I think now guys that are doing well for multiple schools or guys that are coming out of MLS Next Pro, not signing a professional contract and then possibly coming to school for 2 years and then maybe going after that. So I think the MLS academies are helping shape the landscape, not only of the professional game, but the good levels in college as well, you know.
Are you finding the guys with that experience maybe pick things up a little bit quicker? Somebody like Matt DeJaney, who had a good bit of time with Atlanta United too, who's now made his way to you in South Carolina.
Yeah, Matt's getting minutes already.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't come in naive. He didn't come in sort of eyes wide open. He kind of came in and he played against men. He trained against men. He'd been held accountable against, you know, pros. So I think it does give them that little bit of a head start as far as the maturity of the player. I really do think that helps, just like it helped when Atlanta 2 was in USL Championship. You know, the development of the lads who have gone on, who played in that team, they hit the ground with the first team kind of running. And it's the same thing coming to college. I think if you have, and it doesn't have to be MLS. I've got a guy who was playing UPSL against men, and he's done well coming in. So I don't think it's necessarily only MLS, but obviously those guys are getting a good education and they're ready to roll when they hit the doorstep.
That feels like one of the things that is changing the most. And I mean, you can speak to this from your time even before Atlanta United, where it felt like we were very age group kind of regimented, maybe a little bit of guys playing up, but you didn't see as much outside of maybe the Latino leagues of guys playing against men when they were teenagers and in high school. That feels like it's much more common now, and it feels like it's helping in the overall development of those players.
Yeah, I mean, it goes without saying, if you develop players, you know that playing those players against men or what you would call older players with more experience speeds up their development. No doubt. Look at Caleb Wiley.
Yeah.
Playing the twos when he was 15 years old, and he was like a deer in the headlights.
Yeah, he was.
But he got through it. Look at him now. You know, George Campbell, same thing. Noah Cobb. These guys who show great maturity started at a young age playing up and against guys who had greater experience, who were maybe faster, stronger. And it's either it's sink or swim, right? Or you know, sometimes when you're a silver medalist, you get put into those categories. You have to keep striving to get there and make it, and it helps them. You know, it accelerates their development. I mean, we could go on for hours about development, obviously, but that's not what we're here for.
But that's an interesting one because, you know, that's the world that you came from, and you bring that mentality obviously to what you're doing today. But you're right, the college game, you don't get to develop guys all that often that stay for more than 2-3 years. How many, 4-year guys are you going to see in the future? How do you strike that balance between knowing that you want to develop these players but knowing they might not be back next year?
I'm trying to answer this the right way. Yeah, I mean, I'm from a development background, right? I mean, I spent 20 years in the club system, then I went into Atlanta United and did that, and I like developing players. I don't think you don't develop players in college. I think we said it off air earlier when we were chatting. I know how I want to train to develop players and how I need to train to develop players, and that's not always available in the college game because of the schedule, because of the game schedule. You know, we get plenty of time with these guys. We get 20 hours a week with these guys. That's a lot of time. I didn't have that time with Atlanta 2 players.
Right.
All the academy guys, I had, maybe 10 to 12 hours a week we did. And we have 20 hours to use to get these guys in a good development space. It's hard. It is hard because you can't train the way you have to. You can't train the way you want to. Otherwise, the games become a mess.
Yeah.
And we have to win games, especially at big schools where the expectation is to win. So it's a hard balance to strike. I think there are a lot of players who, especially at South Carolina, where you've got great resources, you've got great facilities. You know, you come here, it's hard to leave here unless something's really wrong. Or you don't have the resilience to say, I'm going to keep on going and I'm going to make sure I get my playing time and I'm going to work through it. But I think the majority of guys we're recruiting, we do look for that resilience gene that hopefully will keep them here for 3 to 4 years, and they will develop over that period of time. We do a ton of developing the player in the spring because you have more time. We train every day, but we play every 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Which isn't ideal, but for training purposes and developing the player, it's pretty good. So I think, you know, I don't think it's as bad as people make out the portal. It can be frustrating.
Sure.
But if you do your job, you coach them, you're good to them, they feel valued, and they enjoy their experience, you know, there's not really a reason to move unless it's a monetary thing or there's just a relationship that's broken and they have to go.
And it goes back to the idea of having those principles, you know, not just in the program and how you want to manage the program itself, but those principles of play, that game model, and those things that are consistent and attract players. You know, I see it with Georgia State, specifically on the women's side, with, you know, Ed Joyce talking about how he doesn't really go into the portal all that much because he wants players who are going to buy in to the system and be around for that long period of time. How has that helped you as somebody who has that identifiable way that you want your teams to play consistently? How has that helped recruit and keep talent?
Yeah, like I said before, the recruitment's probably the hardest part, right? There's probably 20, 30 schools going after the same guy.
Yeah.
If they're that good. So you have to be buttoned up, right? You have to have your game model presentation. You have to have your methodology presentation. And a lot of recruits I speak to, you know, they haven't seen it. Not necessarily everybody has that. Not everybody knows how to do that.
Right.
I'm fortunate I went through the French course and did my licenses where I was prepared for that. So I can sit a guy down and show him 250 pages of game modeling theory of how we work. Doesn't necessarily mean I'll be successful, but at least I've got the plan. They see the plan. It's evidence-based. So I can show them video of how we do it and show them video of it being done in games. So it's not just me trying to, you know, flog the oil. So I do a lot of evidence-based stuff where I can show what I'm talking about instead of just talking about it and trying to sell myself, sell the program. There's a bit of that in there, absolutely. But I think making sure that you've got your ducks in a row, all your documentation, all your presentations, everything's there. I think that helps recruit, definitely, because guys who come from big academies or international clubs, they've seen that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, they've been exposed to that. And if you don't have that, maybe there's a question of, well, do I go here or do I go there? They seem like they're prepared. All their coaches are, well, not now, our coaches are A licensed, some of them. You know, do the coaches have any licenses? Have they bothered to do any licensing? Like, I think that's a bit of a sign as well, right? If you're a soccer coach and you've got nothing to say, I'm invested in my craft, that can also hurt your recruitment. Not that there's anything wrong with a guy not having a license. I'm not saying that.
Sure.
That's a personal choice. But you're talking about recruitment, and guys do ask those questions. So.
And I'm sure somebody that you point out as a success story, somebody that I've been really impressed with seeing in your program, is Ethan Ballack. How big has he been for your team this season as you get ready for conference play?
Yeah, I mean, he's a special lad, you know. He's been drafted by Nashville, so he had the chance to go, and he decided to finish his degree, and he's probably going to go in December, which is great for him.
Yeah.
But to be fair, he's come back and he's applied himself the same way he did before he got drafted. You know, he's been a big part. I don't think he's the only part, but I think he's a big part of our attack. but he's also learned the other side of the game, which he didn't really have when he came from Virginia Tech. He didn't really care to defend as well as he does now. So hopefully we've developed him, made a impact on him as a human as well, which is part of our philosophy. And he leaves here with a great experience, a good knowledge of what to expect when he gets to there. There's been a few times I've had to sit him down and go, look, I know what's coming.
Yeah.
You don't. And this isn't going to fly at the next level. You know, we need to get this sorted out. So I hope I've had a big impact on him. And like I said, he's been great for us. He's been great for this program. And he'll be a big miss when he goes next year.
And when you have guys who follow that next step in their journey, they become selling points and maybe examples a little bit for the ones following, right?
Oh, definitely. We had a few recruits comment about having 2 guys drafted to the MLS, you know, and we had a good year. We had 10 wins, double-digit wins, but we didn't get to the tournament. We fell short a little bit there. So for guys to still come here on the back of having 2 guys drafted and seeing the game model and seeing what we're going to do when they get here, I mean, that's to still get quality guys in. That's a good recruitment tool.
So when you look at this year, you know, I'm not sure how you kind of structure this. You have you have your non-conference schedule. You then get into conference play, which is going to set you up for the tournament, which in a lot of cases is your season down to the conference tournament in terms of getting into the national tournament or not. So you're 1/3 through getting ready for conference play. How would you rank where your team is and where you'd like them to be right now?
Rank them within the conference or rank them
Kind of within like your idea of where you want them to be.
I think, you know, the loss to North Florida the other night was a bit of a kick in the teeth. You know, we could have been 6-2, and if you told me at the beginning of the season you'd be 6-2 going into conference play, I'd have been fairly happy with that. You know, I'm not unhappy with where we are. I'd like to have had 1 or 2 more wins. Obviously, we dropped the ball a couple of times and made some silly mistakes, but I think we're on track. We're in a good position. The guys are in good spirits. The guys are in good mood. You know, even the loss to North Florida, we kind of bounced on quickly from that one because the statistics showed how well we played, but it came down to mistakes and not taking our chances. So I think we bounced past that one pretty quickly, and we're rolling into conference, which is almost like another season, if you look at it that way, with a good attitude.
Does this team feel like one that when you have those setbacks, you know, where you outplay a team, but the result doesn't go your way, does this group this year feel like one that spurs them on to reach a higher level down the road?
For sure. Yeah, there's definitely a resilience to this group and I think it's because of the older guys who've come from programs where they have been very successful, that are kind of not holding the group together, but are leading the group vocally with, you know, this is not the end of the line. It's just a game. We can move on. I've heard, you know, they've had their own meeting when we got beat off Upstate, which was a little bit of a surprise, right? On paper. The guys got together themselves the next day and decided, listen, we're not training hard enough. And that was the message coming out of the locker room. And the next couple of training sessions were great. So when you don't have to facilitate that as a coach, you've got something going on, you know?
That's such an important factor that you don't always get. Sometimes, you know, you have to be the one to set that standard and reinforce it at times. But when you get it from the locker room, that feels like a right recipe for success.
Yeah. I mean, like I said to you before, I've changed as a coach for sure. College soccer's made me a better coach than I was before. And I think when a team can take, like, listen, I've still got very high standards and I've still got a lot of discipline to the way I do things. Mm-hmm. Because without that, I don't believe you can be successful.
Right.
But I've learned to not hold on so tight. I've learned to give responsibility, to delegate responsibility, and manage what I would say is a new generation of players. I've learned to manage them a little bit differently, and I think it works. Like, it's working for me. It may not work for everybody, And I have conversations with a lot of coaches, not necessarily college coaches. I mean, I speak to Scott Wells a little bit here and there. I speak to Jay Vidovich a little bit here and there. I don't speak to many, but I speak to obviously coaches in the game, and the generations have changed.
Yeah.
And we don't, and we stay stiff and stiff in our structure. Then you may fall behind.
Yeah.
And I'm 51 years old nearly, and I'm starting to feel a bit different as a coach and act a bit differently as a coach, and not hold on to the smallest pieces as tight as I used to. But standards, that's my word. Everyone says standards. And the discipline part of that is really still important to me, and I'll never let that go.
Is that evolution as a coach, is that exciting to you?
Oh, 100%. To actually, when I was 40, I changed massively. Went into the MLS, went through the French course for 2 years. That was a big change for me, big point. And now again at 50 or 49, 50 in the last couple of years, I've changed again and evolved again. So for me, as a coach or as a businessman or whatever you are, I think if you're not learning, you're standing still, right? And I use the smooth seas never make great sailors. And that's the thing. It's like I'm a mentor to a few coaches. And my thing is always step outside the box, challenge yourself, go work for free. Don't always have to be paid, but put yourself in positions where you're going to see a completely different side of the game or challenged by the game. And this has really challenged me. So I'm really pleased that I've managed to evolve again. And I hope to keep evolving in the next, 10, 15 years of my career.
It's funny, a lot of the same things that you just said are things that I've said to people, whether it's people that I mentor or just people talking about the broadcast industry, because it's the same stuff. I call games differently now than I did when I first started. Terminology changes, trends change, the way we describe things change. And if I don't, then other people are going to be better. And you have to constantly adapt to it and be willing to try to adapt and maybe struggle with it at times to get better
Absolutely.
and to stay good.
Struggle's part of morphing into something else. I mean, you have to fall down.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. The first couple of years I was here was tough, really tough.
It's a big adjustment.
Losing games, I couldn't get what I wanted. It is a big adjustment. I came from the ivory tower of Atlanta United. It's hard, man. It's like things are hard, but now they're better, and things always get better. Yeah. No matter how hard your days are, it always gets better. As long as you keep believing that, I think you're good. I mean, I'd take you as an example. I've known you since probably before you were in broadcast, soccer in the streets and stuff. And I mean, your evolution as a broadcaster has been phenomenal. So any walk of life's the same. You've got to continue to strive to evolve, strive to change. And if you're standing talking about somebody else, you're wasting your time. I hear people, talk a lot about me, but some of them never even met me. You're talking about me and you're so interested in me. What does that say about you?
I know how that one goes. Yep.
Yeah. I hear it. Believe me, look, people love to tell me.
Yeah, it's interesting. I want to end with this. You mentioned Atlanta United. Obviously, your time with Atlanta United was heavily influential in so many players coming through the academy and getting to the first team. But for all of them, it wasn't about the first team. There's so many players who went on to college and have successful careers, have gotten into coaching. I see somebody like Dylan Gaither at Oglethorpe all the time now, and
Josh Bronsdorf's here with me.
Josh Bronsdorf with you. I mean, it's so cool to see you be able to help players get to whatever their best version of themselves is. We talked about it. You mentioned Caleb Wiley, you mentioned George Campbell. Obviously at that end of the scale, how gratifying is it for you to see George make that leap into the championship, to see Caleb now at Watford on loan from Chelsea, players that you had a massive hand in getting them to that stage?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't be proud of those guys. There's Luke, Bello, Cole Campbell. I mean, there's a ton of guys. They're all over my walls. Actually, they all send shirts, and I hang their shirts. But I still talk to George. I still talk to Caleb. I'm hopefully going to get over when Watford play West Brom.
Oh,
So I'm definitely going to try and tie a trip into that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's if you ask Roy Keane, he would say it's your job, and that's what it is. It was my job to do that, and I really enjoyed doing it, and I'm really proud of them. But it was my job to try and help them get them where they are. I mean, with George being at my old club that I played for, it's crazy. He's sending me pictures of the Hawthorns. Changed a lot since I was there in 1990.
A little bit.
Yeah, I'm massively proud of them. Noah, kicking on. Ephraim kicking on. I mean, all those guys that came through that we weren't sure about sometimes. You're like, is he going to make it? I mean, I've told you the story about George 100 times. George would never have been a centre-back if someone didn't get sick in Mexico. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, it's really gratifying to see them doing what they're doing, but it's them that are doing it. They had the mindset. They had the ability. They wanted it. They dedicated themselves to it, which made our jobs really easy. Matt Lowry must have done 200 hours of video with Caleb. Yeah. And sat through it and sat there, and Caleb was a quiet kid. Getting a conversation out of him was crazy. Bit more confident now. Yeah. But they wanted to be where they were. They didn't pretend they wanted it. They wanted it. And they always end up getting there if you've got that mindset and you've got that drive and you've got good people helping you along the way. And that's what we feel we were. We're facilitators of their ability, facilitators of their drive, and guides of their journey.
You definitely have been that, and the impact that you've had on Atlanta United, even still today, is massive. Just look at some of the transfer budget that the club is going to have based off of some of these players that came through with you having a big impact in it. So thank you for that. It's going to be a here in this next window.
Atlanta still has a piece of my heart. I know. I left a little piece when I left Atlanta,
I know.
The city and the club.
Yeah, I'm sure at some point down the road you'll be back, and we will be catching up then. Some point way down the road, but
we'll see.
You got a lot of work at South Carolina right now, so keep it up. It's always fun to catch up with you, and it's always fun to see how the Gamecocks are coming together. And we'll be watching tomorrow night as they host Georgia State.
I appreciate your time as always.
Bases dropped on a new week of soccer down here.
Be amazing. I'm just saying, 90 minutes compelling content. It's non-stop entertainment.
Kodai Tanaka, what a save! Kodai Tanaka cleans it up, and Kodai Tanaka says goodnight. Right. He's back to the left, he's back to the right, he's back to the left, plays it off, goal! Goal! Goal!
Able to slip it through, is gonna find it, and it's in!
Gajardo with the left! Puts in the cross over the head of Carlton. It falls to him anyway. Right-footed shot,